Hello, this is Sam, and today we're going to be doing Leetcode ASMR, and we are going to try to solve number 13 today, which is essentially inputting a Roman numeral character and turning it into an integer. So the output is going to be the integer. For instance, if there's a value such as IV, then it translates to 4. If there's a value such as M, then it translates to 1,000. Basically, that's essentially how it works. So what I'm going to try to do, because I have started already, so I would like to see how this plays out. So currently what I have is I have a placeholder for the sum of all the items, or all the Roman numerals added up together, and then I have a for loop afterwards. So the for loop is going to go throughout the string s, and it's going to iterate through each and every string, and then check if there is specific letters, I guess. So what I'm going to try to do is inside the for loop I will add a while loop. So the while loop is going to handle any cases. So while the I is not equal to 0, meaning that if it continues to not be 0, it was maybe I should change that as well, because I needed to continuously do that until the length. Okay, so while I don't think I even need a while loop, actually. I think I could just do multiple if statements, because if there is this, or if there's that, or if there's this, or if there's that, then you will add this to the sum. You will add this to the sum. For instance, if I is equal to M, then you add 1,000. So that should be good. Yeah, because however, it looks like it's interesting. As contains yours. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 7 different characters, but there's multiple combinations for these 7 characters. So I need to have at least 7 if statements. So if we start from the highest, then we go down to the lowest. What we can do is, if I is equal to M, then you add 1,000. Else if I is equal to D, if I is equal to D, because I believe I might need to worry about the case, the case, the capital or the lowercase. So I need to make sure that it's accurate. So there could pose an issue. There could be an issue. So if I were to say that if I is equal to D, then it's going to be 500. So sum plus equals 500, and then moving down. This is a little bit of a more like a brute force kind of method, but I don't think it matters too much. As long as I can solve the problem, that's plenty enough for me. I can worry about like the time complexity and whatnot afterwards. For now, I'd like to solve this. So, so if m is equal to I, then this is what's gonna happen, and then blah 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 blah. And then I think afterwards I need to have a I plus plus statement, right? Or maybe not, because it already does that in the for loop. So I think I don't need to worry about that, unless if I'm making a nested for loop, then I might need to skip another I, because I'm already comparing the next value, right? So I might need to use a double for loop. So because if I use a double for loop at the start and then iterate throughout that, then that could work as well. You could use a double for loop to iterate through that, but I don't know. We'll see how this works, because I don't necessarily know if you need to make a double for loop. You could if you wanted to. Okay, moving on. Else if I is equal to, I think we need to do a double, because it needs to be a literal. If it equals to D, or if it equals to C, then you add 500 to, or sorry, 100 to the sum, right? And then else if I is equal to L, then you add 50. So sum plus equals 50. And then finally, we have 3 more. So else if x, or if I is equal to x, then sum plus equals 10. Else if I plus equals, or sorry, I equals v, then that would be 5. Sum plus equals 5. Now, if we move on to the final one, which is I, else if I is equal to the capital letter I, then sum plus equals 1. And then where it is. And then we need to return the sum. Okay, let me run this real quick. I'm having an error on my for loop. It states that there are issues with my... Oh yeah, there is. Oops. And then, yeah, I think that's... I mistakenly put... cannot find some... Okay, and then... Okay, so it was correct. Okay, so we have a couple more errors. Cannot find symbol M. So, it needs to find the string if it equals the string M. So let me just turn those into strings real quick. There we go. There we go. Control S. Oh no, we don't need to save it. It automatically saves it in the cloud, which is pretty nice. Oh yeah. You don't need to put a double equals because it is just equaling towards the string, so there's no need for a literal to occur. Right. I do believe we need to. There's a chance that we need to set this into like an array. So, for instance, like, what we could do is, what I'm thinking we need to do is to convert whatever is in string s to an array, and then we iterate through that array to find the to compare it. Because right now what I'm essentially doing is trying to see if I can compare an int, the positioning of an int to the string, which doesn't make sense. So trying to think. Interesting. Looking over some of the solutions that people had, it's pretty interesting on how they did that. Down, okay. So it's similar to what I have. Instead, they're using a switch case they're using a for loop, and then on the inside they're using a switch case to switch single variables to the numbers, right? So that is interesting. Okay. And that makes a lot more sense. Like it looks a lot cleaner coding wise as well. So yeah, that looks pretty simple. Okay, let me try to understand the logic behind something like this. So I'm gonna restart my code and essentially try to go over this. So the person said that, so he did the same thing. He, had an empty bucket, so I had sum, and then he had answer. He had a, okay, so sum, and then number, so I guess I'll just put num, and then prv. Okay, there we go. So int num sum and then previous, and then we use a for loop to go throughout iterate through the strings. Yeah, I don't know why it took me so long to say that. I was looking at the code, but he started with a J. I'm gonna start with an I. So if and he started from the top to the bottom. I'm not entirely sure why. Oh, okay. So he wanted to start at the top. So Because if you think about it, if you start from the lowest number, then you can chronologically go at a faster pace. And the reason why you can do that is because it checks. There's an if loop afterwards, after the switch case, stating that if the number is less than the previous, then the answer is going to subtract from the number. Okay. Interesting. Some interesting logic. Okay, so let's dot length, same thing here. Nothing too crazy. And then j is greater than or equal to 0. And then j minus minus. Or in this case, it's I minus minus for me. So with that out of the way, it's going to be starting from d length minus 1. So if it was like x, I, v, then v would be the first number that would start. So then if that's the case, we would use a switch case and then s char at j, or in this case at I. So it's going to look at the individual character, and in the individual character, if the case turns out to be m, then it's an interesting way of, okay, yeah, I was gonna say num is equal to, so if it turns out to be m, it turns into 1,000, and then vice versa. So let me just write that down real quick. So m d num is set to 500, case num is set to 100, case L num is equal to 50, case X num is equal to 10. And I know, I went to solutions a little bit quickly, but I've already been coding for like a little bit behind the scenes, which I did explain in the beginning. That's why I had a feeling that it was going to be fairly close to what I had before, and yeah, it looks like it's not too far off. They just use a different type of, I guess, what is this specifically called? It's like they're using a switch statement, I'm using a for if else statement, so either way it works. But it makes sense that they're using switch case because of how simple, and clean it looks. So now that we have all those written down, we need to write the if statements. So inside the for loop, it's going to exit the switch case, but go, so once it checks what Roman numeral it is, it's going to set the number to that specific numeral, and then the if loop is going to check if the number is less than the previous. So in this case, we don't have a less than the previous because the previous is 0. Then the answer is going to be, or in this case, the sum is going to be minus equals the number. So we're going to subtract else sum minus equals the number. Okay, looking pretty good. And then is equal to num. I think that should be good. And then finally, once we have all of those, we return the answer. Now, before we solve this, before we turn this in, we need to make sure that this logic actually makes sense. So, let's say that the test case is, let's say, oh, whoops, forgot that the return should be a sum. Has it really not been initialized? I guess not. Oh, okay, I see. I think that's better. Does it really have... That's weird. That's interesting. So it's not registering the specific variables, which makes sense. I think it needs to be inside of the for loop for it to properly register, I think. Let's run it. Cannot find simple stuff. But then, yeah, so then now it's gonna ask another issue because now it's stating that. But that's interesting. Okay. That is kind of weird. I don't know why, because it should be on the outside, right? Oh, I think there's an issue with that. Okay, I think that's better. No, it's not. This goes with that. That aligns with this. Bam, bam. Yeah, I think that looks fine. It's just not properly. It's not properly configured. I don't understand why it's not registering the values to the correct, because I'm setting int sum is equal to 0, num is equal to 0, blah blah blah. It's just not registering for some reason. Have I forgotten something? It's confusing. I can clearly see that on my code I do not have a proper, it's not like, for some reason it's not transferring properly. It seems to be that my 3 variables that I've initialized are out of bounds, which is weird because it shouldn't be out of bounds. weird. I guess there's always an issue with everything. It's quite interesting. I don't know, like, because if I put in the for loop, then the sum is not going to be properly initialized. Because if I put like int num is equal to 0, how is that? I'm confused. Anyways, yeah. What if I run this? What? Okay, so this works. Okay. So his worked out for some reason. Okay. It's weird. I don't know why mine didn't work out properly, but it is what it is. What if this runs? Yeah, this one runs perfectly fine as well. So something went wrong with what I wrote down, but regardless, it seems though everything looks to be pretty good. All right, so the if statement is going to check if the number, for instance, if 1 is less than the previous number. There is no previous number, right? So 1 in this case is greater, else. So it goes into the else statement. So if the else, the else simply states that the answer is going to be added into the number. Sorry, the number is going to be added into the answer, and then it's going to continue to go backwards. So now it's going to go from, if we have xiv, so it added 5, and then it's going to have I as well. So if it has the character I, it's going to check if the number is less than the previous. It is less than the previous. So it's going to, the answer is going to be subtracted by the number. So it is going to subtract 1. And then it's going to go to x. It's going to go to x. So if it goes to x, then it'll be 10. In this case, you know, it'll be 1, so 10 is now less than 1, so we'll go into the else statement, which means that answer is going to add to the number, which is going to return the total answer of, you know, XYZ. So yeah, I think that looks pretty good to go. And then even for something complicated such as MCM XCIV, it works because of the fact that it goes to the, so it iterates through V first, which is the very last string. It checks that, is it less than the previous? No. So it's going to add V, which is 5, and then it checks the previous one. So it's, the previous one is I. Is 1 less than 5? Yes. So it's going to subtract 1 from the answer. Now we're left with 4. It's going to check if C, which in this case is 100, is less than 1. No, it's not less than 1. So it's going to add 100. So now we have 104. And then they're going to check X, right? Is X less than C? Yes. Is 10 less than 100? Yes. So it's going to subtract 10 from the the total, which is going to be 94. 104 minus 10, 94. So now we have 94. There's another m that comes after the x, which turns out to be 1,000. So 1,000 is certainly greater than x, so they're going to add 1,000. So now we have 1,094. And then the previous is c, which is essentially 100. So now we have 994 because we're essentially subtracting 1,000. And then finally we have m, which in this case is another 1,000, and that's the last one. So once it checks the last string, it exits the loop and then returns the answer, which is 1994. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Just a quick ASMR, and yeah, thank you for watching.